In times like these, we need the armor of God for the well-being of our families, to help you stand in the evil day. The Church of God International presents Armor of God, a program of biblical understanding.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Armor of God with myself, Blake Silverstein, Anika Hansen, and Ann Reed. I wanted to just say that I'm excited for tonight's Bible study. Anika is going to be leading us through one of her domains that she's discussed in her previous Bible study. She's going to flesh it out. But before we get into that, I wanted to check in with y'all. How are y'all doing?
Good. Thanks for asking.
Very busy, but very blessed.
How are you doing, Blake?
Blessed. I think I have a semblance of balance here. We had Larry Watkins, who's the pastor of the local church here, had some medical things happen, and so we've all had to step up and take over some of the responsibilities. And so I'm putting together the speaking schedule and all of those things, making sure to keep all of the folks in line over there, which has been fun. And we've just concluded our CEM board meeting. Our annual board meeting was this past Saturday, and it was good. We're up in income by about 30%, which is really nice. And our newsletter list has grown by 90% over the last year. So we're excited. And it's been good. Lots going on, business, kid, and this time of year, people have a lot going on. And so this is your busy season, Ann. I mean, I'm taxing. I'm probably not
meant to be, but right now there's the game of hot potato. Get everything onto someone else's plate and then leave for the holidays. Not celebrating the holidays, a lot of times I end up with all
Yes, I've had some of that.
But next week is Winter Family Weekend, so really looking forward to that.
Yeah, well,
have you had any of that,
have to
Anika?
keep Mr. Watkins in prayer. And Mrs. Watkins.
He's doing well. He's just had the wind taken out of his sails, and he's going to be back at it. As I kid, he's going to bury all of us. He's so healthy. He's just always active. But I had the same thing. Like my employees were like, "So are we open on Friday?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, it's not Christmas." I always kind of scowl when I say Christmas. It's not Christmas. No, I'm kidding. I don't. But no, like, yeah, no, we're open. It's like it's another day.
Yeah.
What about the day after New Year's? I'm like, yeah, we're open. It's we're open.
Milk it.
Yeah.
I know what it is.
Yeah, well, we're definitely excited for Winter Family Weekend. So
that's awesome. So you're both going to be there?
Yeah, and so I'm going to do a seminar there. And so this I'm condensing it for the podcast. Taking it for granted that it's 45 minutes. I know I have 30 minutes. And so, but at Winter Family Weekend, it's divided into a 2-part session. So
awesome.
So she's an overachiever. I'm just doing one seminar.
One seminar. Look at y'all.
Well, I've done one seminar, like many times. And I was like, I keep getting the feedback. Please don't overwhelm us so much. So I broke it into 2. So hopefully it's not 2 overwhelming seminars. It's 2 well-paced seminars. You
do good. You do very well with all of the applications of scripture, how they're connected. They make sense. And it really does. It also has it seems like it has real life application, which is nice.
Yeah.
For me, I'm always way far out and how does this connect? I guess I could see that.
What does T.S. Eliot think about this esoteric?
That's right.
Whereas I think, Anika, you're going to lead us through something very practical.
Very.
Yes.
Very
That's right.
Practically based today. So
absolutely.
Yeah, really, I'm excited for it too.
Awesome. You guys, you want me to jump right in?
Do it.
Absolutely. Get on in.
Okay, awesome. I'm ready to share my first slide. So this is the slide that you guys would have seen before. And it's a pleasure for me to facilitate the session and also to be able to give some practical application of this topic of root work. And it was born out of walking with God through growth and setbacks, rebuilding and stewardship in life. So tonight's session is a follow-up, as we mentioned, to the deeper introduction I shared earlier on. And if you watched the podcast episode for our viewers or heard me teach on the foundational topics previously, think of tonight as the next layer where we begin applying it in real life. So when roots are deep and well tended, fruit are almost a natural byproduct. And this Bible study integrates 7 domains of life. So when we talk about it being practical, it's looking at the domains that God has given us and looking at them holistically, because God cares about us as a whole being. He didn't create us in fragments. And so tonight we're just focusing on one of the domains, which is the physical, but we're going to keep the whole system in view. So now how tonight fits into the bigger picture. So while the earlier sessions explain why root work matters, tonight is about how it shows up in everyday stewardship, specifically in how we care for our bodies that God has entrusted to us. So it's one domain, it's one layer, and it's one step forward in our faithful stewardship. As we move forward tonight, I want you to listen and think about it through this lens. What roots is God inviting me to tend more intentionally in this season? So I invite my co-hosts, Blake and Ann, to answer that question either mentally or out loud, or if you want to share what comes to mind when you hear that statement. What do you think about when I say, what roots is God inviting you to tend more intentionally in this season?
As it pertains to the physical domain.
Yes.
Well, for me, the biggest motivator to actually do more and put more intentionality about behind things is when I find that there's something that I want to do and I can't do or do as well as I had hoped. And the week of Thanksgiving, we went to Disneyland and we did 3 days of non-stop walking around parks. And I felt it a lot more this last time. And I was like, I don't like that. You want to be that person that wants to shut the place down, not the, I'm tired, let's go home. And then a couple weeks ago at CGI Atlanta, there was a family dance. And I love making a fool out of myself at dances. And but trying to do things like the church clap and Cotton Eye Joe with like the teenagers, my knees were very much letting me know that I was not one of the teenagers anymore. And I hate that. I hate like not being able to do it as much. So that's kind of what brings me back to that intentionality and knowing I need to put more work in. Is there's a lot of things that I want to be able to do, and not being able to is when it's within my power is not acceptable.
Thank you. Blake, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Yeah, we were doing this Bible study on, and I think Tracy talked to Ann about it, actually, about that there's some pretty good, solid indications that the disciples were pretty young whenever Jesus called them, and this is, and we were like pondering as to why that, why not someone that's a little bit more seasoned, someone that's a little bit more maybe grounded in the scripture, mature, right? A little bit more established, maybe a little bit more financial backing, like these kind of things, right? That just seem more practical. And we kind of concluded the fact that like it was just maybe there might have been an element of just the practicality of they needed to be in shape. They needed to be like willing, like needing to go a long way. They needed to have an ability to walk a lot of places, back then. And so I saw that there is just an element of our discipleship that we should take it like seriously, like that, like that there is a level of that we should be physically fit, right? We should be ready and willing to like be able to deliver the gospel, so to speak, with our hands and feet. And so we've been talking about getting back into being more consistent with our working out, even though we've taken on a lot of responsibilities lately, especially the last couple of months, for sure last year, with the new responsibilities with the business. I feel like, I get home and I just don't want to do the working out, but we've gotten back into it over the last week or so, which is good. And I was like, the first couple days back, I was like, oh man, that was hard, and I was doing like half the weight I used to be doing. So now this is a real deal. Yeah, if you don't use it, you lose it. And so, and there's also this whole article about the mind body connection, that like there's a lot of evidence to support that when you're doing both, they really do work in harmony. So yeah, so those two things came to mind.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Okay, and we could go to the next visual. And so for this particular study tonight, and also the one I'll do at Renner Family Weekend, I wanted to really frame some visuals that are what was going on in the background of my mind as God was helping me develop this Bible study and kind of this program. So as you see in this visual, I'm using this metaphor of a mountain, and that's the direction we're heading in. And so frequently there are many paths that we can choose. We're not sure which one we will land on or which one to take. And sometimes for some people, it can be overwhelming not knowing. And so the reason that this Bible study is grounded and rooted in the fruit of the Spirit and the armor of God is because putting those things together, we look at life with that godly lens. And that helps us to see, okay, where is God directing me now? So that I don't have doubt about the path. I have clarity about the path. And so the roots are developed before the climb. Before we start going, we start developing the roots. And as we go, God develops them further. So life with God is not a straight road. It's a series of climbs, valleys, and plateaus. Each season requires different strength, different tools, and deeper trust. And so with godly root work, that's how we steward every season well. So I wanted to go back to our discussion. And for our viewers at home, I invite you to take a few minutes and think about what is one area where you need deeper roots, not better results. And to break that question down a little more, what I'm asking is, where is God calling you to be faithful in the process, even if the outcome hasn't changed yet? And a second part to that is, am I asking God to accelerate results when He is actually focused on deepening my foundation? So, Blake, Ann, what are your thoughts?
So I have a business, and we recently been awarded a contract from University of Texas, United Health here, not United Health, Health, East Texas. And I'm not like a construction guy, if you can't tell. Not like, the construction site. I show up on the scene and it's like, I'm like, how do you put this hard hat on? And it's very awkward. And they can kind of tell I just don't fit in. I'm not that kind of individual. And there's a lot of, it's a very cliche work site, and there's just um, a lot of colorful language, let's put it that way, and a lot of just kind of very rough and gruff kind of stuff, and kind of honestly, with that kind of dollar amount, everyone there it's a very high stakes thing, and anyways, it's very nerve wracking, let's put it that way, and there's like lots of hoops you have to jump through, but a lot of it, the culture is just very, it's not my place, right? And so, but I want to fit in. You guys can probably get this from me. I try to be very likable, very easy to be around. I try to be very engaging with people. And so I try to like kind of engage in this kind of like banter, right? And so I feel like and then I feel like I'm like, just like, it's weird because I'm not gonna like, I'm not that guy, right? So, uh, and I feel like there's something like where I was thinking about it the other day about what is that inside of me? Why do I feel like I need to fit in the world, let's say? Because it was very worldly, kind of this whole thing. And so I have this sense of developing my faith and kind of, instead of being someone that's trying to fit in, let's say, with these guys, or be, likable, or kind of, be one of the dudes. Why I'm trying to articulate it. Maybe hopefully it's not coming across, but how to be strong in my faith in those moments where I don't feel like any desire whatsoever to be a part of that. And I don't have a desire to be a part of that. So there's that part of myself that kind of, that small, I call it like the small Blake, right? It's a little guy that's trying to, like, be part of the crowd, so to speak. And so, anyways, that's me being vulnerable and honest about, something that has come up for me recently. Because you said it's recent, right? Something that I feel God's pulling me towards, and it's
Yeah.
about being that witness inside of those uncomfortable moments. Let's say,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My mind kind of went a different direction of not so much recently, but when you talk about, maybe doing one thing instead of another. I can remember a time that I had some health issues and some things that were causing it, that I was gaining weight and having it almost impossible to lose the weight. And it was, obviously for, a lot of people that impacts so many other areas of your life, how you feel about yourself and what you can do, just so many things. And I remember at least going, okay, well, what if I, instead of harping on that, what if I take a different approach to physical health? And I actually started doing powerlifting. I thought, okay, if I can't see the number on the scale go down, I'm going to see the number of the weight that I can lift go up. And I can remember I worked with a personal trainer at that time. They asked me, so, what's a goal of yours? I said, I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror and smile. And I remember the day it happened, and it wasn't the way I was expecting it, but it was because we were just doing some exercise, some, weight exercise, and, gyms, often have, the mirrored walls. So I could see myself in the mirror, and I was doing something. I was doing it much better than I had previously. And I smiled and I went, oh my gosh, I just did it. Like I looked at myself in the mirror and smiled, and it wasn't a vanity because of how I, that part of physicalness. It was what I was able to do, and it made myself proud. So that kind of came into my mind.
Absolutely. I think that's really awesome what Blake you shared and Anne what you shared, because I'm going to bring it back to this root work Bible study and the 3 dimensions, right? So there is the armor of God, there's the fruit of the Spirit, but then there are all these domains. There's 7 domains, and they're the different areas in our lives. And so Blake, the one you were mentioning is social, right?
Yeah.
Our interaction in larger groups. And you brought it back to the physical.
Mm-hmm.
But in sharing so authentically, you're saying, even as we go through life and we have decades behind us, there are areas that God is going to hold up the mirror and say to us, I'd like you to step your game up in this area. And he doesn't want us to say, but I'm X number of years old. I've been on this earth for this long. I've been stewarding all these other areas well. He is going to want us to look and say, you know what? Thank you for showing me that you woke me up today and you have me continuing this walk on earth because you have growth for me. And so in your case, Blake, you're like, okay, so going back to, I'm in a social setting with people who may not share the same things that I share. Our conversation won't just flow as smoothly because we have different interests. The way we speak is different. But God, how can I show up? And maybe there's some things that I might need to mold differently in order to represent you in this setting and be comfortable with that.
Yep.
So yeah, that's awesome. And then Anne, no, go ahead, Blake.
I was just saying it might be uncomfortable, right? And being okay with being uncomfortable with it. Like that's not that. And then you did ask a question about the domain that we're being drawn to right now. Was that the question? Sorry, I think I might have answered. As it pertains to physical?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure.
So you could have
Anne was
taken
doing it right. I was doing it wrong. No, it's just want to make
you
sure.
could have taken it in any direction. It was a very open-ended question.
Good deal.
Yeah, and it's the same thing for our viewers because in different seasons of our life, like where the body of Christ has many members for a reason. And so God will be calling one person to work on relationships, and it may be a specific relationship with a specific person, and being able to say, okay, God, I am going to learn how to appreciate this person, even though they have characteristics that are so grating to me. But because they are your child, I am going to work on not judging them, but instead on representing who you created me to be in this relationship, right? And so, and your point resonates with me so well because in my journey from, the 5 children, and each time having to okay, we're
Start
gonna,
over.
yes, exactly. And so it was like, I had to come to a point where because I'm a weightlifter too. Like I like lifting weights. Herb tells the hilarious story about how we met in a
Yeah.
weightlifting chat room. And so but it's just that's something that I did even in high school and growing up. I'd go to the gym with my aunt and I would do weights and cardio and all of that. And so I had to get to the point where I was like, okay, the scale may not change, but I'm actually seeing changes in my physique. And that's what I'm going to look at as my progress when the scale isn't changing, because I know eventually it will. It may take way longer than I wanted to, but I know things like my asthma is not acting up when I run up and down stairs anymore. And I'm able to lift more and all of those types of things. So those are very, it definitely resonates with me. All right. So on the next slide, I'm going to touch on some of these slides very quickly so that I make sure I stay within time. So we had talked about this before where we're doing root work and not leaf work or trunk work. So the leaf work are the quick fixes, the things that people see. The trunk work, surface strength. So it presents itself to others like this is really great, but it's in the root where we determine if we can survive drought and storms, and if delays, we're able to handle those. So it focuses on what sustains us when no one is watching, and even when we can't see the fruit ourselves. So that's kind of what you were talking about a little bit, Anne.
That's really well said. It's you identify something that I've had a hard time articulating, which is like there's like a fake kind of like this is the substantial work I need to be doing, but it's not the real work. Usually it comes across as bad news. Like the root work is like something that it's like I say bad news, but it's like the difficult. It's like telling on yourself a little bit. There's like some vulnerability involved. Usually, you can sense when someone's like not really engaging. Let's say they're presenting it. They're doing so. Thanks for that. I'm gonna probably use that to identify.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like for me, an example with my health is as I was working, and these years of the baby came. And so now doing the work to get back to pre-baby. And as you get older, of course, it gets harder. And so you don't want it to, but it does. And so eventually, there was like got conversation between me and God. And it was like, okay, your ability to work out that compensated for these bad nutritional habits or these other habits, now you got to deal with that. And so that was really hard, but in persevering through it, in fasting through it, and doing the work in the roots, now I am a different person and my relationship with food is different. The things that I do and don't do are different. And so that is for me, like when I talk about root work, I have this real life example where I could say, I remember when I had to battle cravings. And I was like, I love stuff that's sweet. I love stuff that's salty. I just love food. I'm going to eat it all. And then I'd be hungry all the time. And, and so it's like, okay, God, I know you can break this, because if you can heal someone who cannot walk and cannot see, I know you can take care of this. I know you can help me in this. And I had to do the hard work. I had to fast. I had to, really be introspective. But there came a point where I didn't see the evidence yet. Like, I still had the cravings. I still would overeat. I would still be hungry after eating a lot. But I knew that God had broken that hold, and it just was taking time for me to catch up.
Yes.
And so when I finally caught up, it was like, okay, God, thank you. I know what it's like to walk in close relationship with you, submit to you, and let you change me from the inside out. So I just want to open that up to you guys, if you had, something similar, or understand where I'm coming from.
Totally get it.
Yeah. One, I had two things come to mind. One, again, those like trusting God versus trusting that we've talked about having those different voices inside you. I have a thyroid condition, and when I first had it and it was undiagnosed, the signal in your brain of being starving wouldn't stop.
Ugh, man.
I remember making this just giant bowl of like spaghetti and meatballs, just huge. And eating until like you can't, like an eating competition. You're like, I cannot take another bite. And 10 minutes later, the signal going off in my brain was, I'm starving. And if anything, though, that kind of helped realize maybe because it's like in that situation, it becomes so obvious that's not correct information. I can, look at other evidence and know that is not an accurate statement of what is happening. So if anything, it kind of helped with that little bit of, you're talking about like that detachment of maybe I don't always listen to the little voice in my head that tells me you need to have this. And I'm doing that now because I have not had coffee in 10 days. And to anyone who knows me, they would think this is me signaling to them that I've been kidnapped and I need help. But again, having that realization, okay, we need to do something. We're trying intermittent fasting. So I was like, all right, if I'm already not eating, and depending on my work schedule and when meetings are somewhere between 10 or noon that day, I'm like, I'm already not doing it during that time. I know the way I like coffee has a lot of calories in it. I'm going to do this. I'm not saying I'm never going to again, but I want to feel like this is just one more thing that I have control over versus it has control over me. That no matter where we are, no matter what vacation we're on, no matter what place we're at, where is the coffee in the morning? How will I get my coffee in the morning? When will I be getting my coffee in the morning? And that's not like the first thought going through my head in the morning. So those are two things that I'm working through right now.
It's awesome.
Awesome. So I'm going to go to the slide. And so this slide is it's focused on the deep intentional work and the unseen disciplines, choices, and systems that sustain us during the difficult seasons when we're climbing up the mountain, right? That's before we've taken territory and we set up where God has planted us, at least for a short season. As we're climbing up, that's that deep intentional work. And so on the next slide, I just wanted to quickly touch on one of the foundational scriptures for this topic. And it is in Matthew 6, verse 33. And it says, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given unto you. So we have to believe that even though Christ was talking to believers centuries ago, that when he said to seek his kingdom first and his righteousness first, he was talking to us. And the promises that he made, that all these things will be added to us, those apply to us as well. so that we can believe that our focus is on seeking his kingdom and the other things he will guide us into and provide for us. So in this slide, the visual I want us to get is that as believers, our responsibility in seeking his righteousness means that when God gives us the good and the bad, we believe, because we're spiritually mature, that God's answers to our prayers and are giving us opportunities and blessings that we are to take with us. So we understand that when it says he works all things for our good, that they may not necessarily feel good, but that God works them for our good. So we're going through something that's challenging, and our bodies and our human mind might say, oh, this is hard, this is unpleasant. But we have to believe God is using that for our good. And so we don't expect only ease, comfort, or stepping stones. Instead, we're looking forward to the challenges and the roadblocks because we realize that they too are part of the building materials that God is giving us.
Which, again, since we're talking about physical, I mean, that's how exercise works. That's how building muscle works. If you don't, the whole point is that you tell your body that you're not, the muscle mass we have right now was not enough to do this. I need you to break it down a little and build it back stronger so that it's easier.
Yes.
If you don't do anything challenging, then you will not change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so with the fruit of the Spirit, I wanted to give some concrete examples of how the fruit of the Spirit ties into the physical and also the armor of God. So the activity that I want us to think about, and so because of time, we're just going to think about it, and for our viewers can do it later. So why is the fruit that you will identify now, why is it important in what you're doing in your physical body in this season? And so what I want you to think about is what one fruit of the Spirit would you need most for stewarding your physical body in this season? And for instance, Ann and I talked about patience and being able to say to ourselves, what I'm doing has merit just in doing this every day or however often I do it. And I'm going to keep doing it without needing to see the results of it. So that patience. So I'm going to quickly go through the different fruit. So love. Love can show up in how we care for our bodies with compassion rather than criticism, honoring them as God's workmanship. Joy is choosing gratitude for what our bodies can do today instead of postponing thankfulness until they're better. Peace governs our physical stewardship by freeing us from anxiety-driven habits and helping us listen to what our bodies truly need. Long-suffering or patience allows us to respect the time that it takes for healing, strength, and change without rushing or giving up. Kindness is expressed in gentle choices towards our bodies, how we eat, rest, speak to ourselves, and recover. Goodness guides us to choose what is nourishing and life-giving over what is merely convenient or indulgent. Faithfulness is showing up consistently for our physical health, even when progress feels slow or unseen. And gentleness or humility acknowledges our limits without shame and receives God's grace in seasons of weakness and rebuilding. And self-control empowers us to make disciplined, Spirit-led choices that align our physical habits with our spiritual calling. And so I know that was a mouthful, and I'm going to go to the next slide, which is on the armor of God. And I think we'll wrap up there for today. So with the armor, I wanted to do the same thing where we look at each of the pieces of the armor and how would they apply in our physical stewardship. And so I'm encouraging us here as a group together with my co-hosts and for our viewers to think about what piece of the armor would you most need, or do you most need to work on implementing in the stewarding of your physical bodies. So when we start off with the belt of truth, the belt of truth anchors physical stewardship by calling us to be honest about our habits, limits, and the current conditions of our bodies. The breastplate of righteousness protects us by guiding us to make choices that honor God rather than harm what He has entrusted to us. Our feet shod with the preparation of peace has like a twofold application. It keeps us steady in our physical lives by helping us to move at a God-given pace instead of one driven by anxiety or comparison. It also, because the feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace is us always being ready to spread the gospel, it also allows us to remember that we should be taking God's gospel, the gospel of peace, everywhere we go and sharing it with others. The shield of faith guards us when progress is slow or setbacks come. It reminds us to trust God through the process of physical growth and healing. Our helmet of salvation protects our minds by grounding our identity in Christ, not in our physical appearance, in our performance, or our physical capabilities. And lastly, the sword of the Spirit equips us to actively combat discouragement, temptation, and false beliefs about our bodies. And instead, we use God's truth about who we are as children of the Most High God. And so I think that I'll have to leave it there, and maybe we'll pick up the next time that I host a Bible study. So thank you so much, Ann and Blake. I don't know if you wanted to share anything as we close.
Just that I want a copy of those two things that you were just reading off, because I feel like that I that how you talk to yourself and that application to yourself, I feel like is one that I need to keep meditating on, versus it comes more naturally to me when it's the outward exhibition of those things.
That was fantastically, well spoken and well said. I really appreciate the breakdown. It was, it felt right. It felt like it was like this is really succinct, really well said.
And
I
throughout you're
up,
going, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Because I've talked about the different pieces of armor of God, and I've thought about just a lot. I thought about it a lot, and the way that you really distilled it down. I think from the angles it was really it's really insightful. And but I do want to bring up maybe a fly in the ointment on your whole presentation here. Psalm 92:14 says, "They shall still bring forth fruit in old age, and they shall be fat and flourishing." So I mean, it's in the scriptures. It's there. Isaac blesses Jacob with the fatness of the earth. All right, so not the thinness of the earth. All right, come on.
I like that. That's good. I'm using that in my seminar.
There's also one about the not run about the what is it about running when no one's chasing you. There's one on that it's like.
But the souls of the diligent shall be made fat. It's Proverbs 13:4. So it's like, all right, there you go.
Overflowing with blessings.
Yes, right. That's right. Exactly. It's like the diligence leads to the fatness, not the food. Okay, like
yes,
so,
exactly.
Right. But no, obviously, clearly there was different times, different eras. This is the whole thing about. Remember the whole Bible study we did on context is king, and definitely knowing fatness back then was an allusion to being stable and having more than enough.
Royal
Blessing, royal.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. You see that's right. You see
same with not having a tan. The fact that you were able to be inside and leisurely versus out in the sun.
Working hard in the sun.
That's exactly right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's
awesome. Thinness was associated with famine, kind of like it's kind of starvation, all that stuff. So yeah, but
you're hungry. You don't even have any meat on your bones. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, that's right. It's like well, don't trust this guy. He didn't even have enough food to eat. So
yep.
All right. Well, wonderful Bible study, Anika. It was awesome. I think it would definitely, hopefully, kind of like hit some pay dirt for some folks. we don't do that at the beginning of the year. We should just, that's what we just started like immediately. We're like, we're gonna get ahead of all these new year people,
Yeah.
at the gym. But no, I think there's a level of when you are working out and feeling good, like, did you just feel good? And when you feel
Yeah.
good, you're like, I think you're like ready to, well, I'm gonna
Conquer
talk
the
about it here in
world.
a second. You're on top of the world, but I think you're willing to, like, I don't know. I think it's God. You can steady your hand. You can hold on a little longer. It's like the mental fortitude as well, right? Like I was saying earlier, they're connected. The mind
Yeah.
body connection is a real deal. And so now we're going to get into the news portion of our program, and I'm going to go ahead and kick it off here. And I'm going to do a news story you probably are going to be surprised to hear from. It's a sports news story, but it's something that I thought was interesting and kind of cool. LeBron James and his son, Bronny James, they are the first son and father duo that were able, they were playing not only in the same at the in the NBA at the same time, but on the same team for the Lakers. So it's pretty cool. They had this about, I think it's been about 7 or 8 months now that they've been in this last season, and I got some statistics, but it's not a big deal. But what they were talking about, which was interesting, is that it was really cool to see dad kind of helping take on Bronny with, because he's a veteran. He's like considered to be one of the best of all time, right? I mean, highest scoring player of all time, average points and all this. And he's pretty phenomenal. And you see those guys, by the way, and women at the top of their game. I mean, you talk about physical specimens, and these are people that are like in their prime, champion players. But you see this kind of cool thing that dad was kind of giving Bronny a more of kind of how to handle all the media attention, how to handle all of the pressure. And it got me thinking, because I just did this message on the yoke of liberty. And I kind of want to have a selfless plug there, but it was I thought it really helped me to bring in. I thought about this idea of a double yoke, because I bring this out in the message. And come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you, you'll find rest for your souls. Place my yoke upon you, learn of me. And so, if I'm tired and heavy laden, like, Jesus putting a yoke on does not sound like very, very good. Like, just be honest. And so, and what it's interesting about the whole portion is there's a whole allusion back to some other scriptures, which is really neat. But during that time period, because we're not agriculturally, sound, we don't know what the agricultural, truth was during that time period. I think of a yoke. What do y'all think of? I think of, like, my grandparents' place had an old yoke that was up on the wall. It's kind of antiquated technology, right? Some old school stuff, right? It's like when Jesus was talking about that, that was not that was technology. That was tech. You know what I mean? It was not a some old school thing, right? It was something at that time period, was something to utilize to distribute the weight such that you could do the work. And so, and also, I don't know if you get in your head, like, when you visualize, whenever I heard that scripture, which a lot of people love that portion, that's that scripture, because who doesn't want rest, right, for your souls? But I always visualize Jesus kind of like, yeah, Blake, yeah, like I've got the yoke, right? And he's kind of like putting me to work, right? I'm like kind of pulling him. Almost every single yoke at that time period when Jesus was talking, from research, is going to be a double yoke. And I'm like, whoa, okay, that's different. You know, LeBron and Bronny, they're like, kind of like, and he's leading the way. Like, LeBron is like leading and showing him kind of how to do things. And I was reading more about it. Actually, read up on another story I found in the Delaware Gazette, which was talking about the story of this old Clydesdale that this family had received from this Amish person. The guy was about to be put out to pasture, and so they're like, no, 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 we'll take him. And so they like had this great, he just couldn't take care of him anymore. And he told them these stories about how this Clydesdale, his name was Duke, he would take these really unruly horses, and he would help break them. He said, I don't break horses, I yoke them. And I thought that was kind of cool. And he said, what happens is the horses will start to notice after a while that if they step like a couple steps behind Duke, he'll carry like 90% of the weight. And they'll start to realize that that's kind of how, that there's And then they'll start to learn that, like, how to kind of get the motions down, and just by watching from behind, it gives me goosebumps. And how this wasn't like Jesus saying, hey, look, go put this yoke, the law. I consider that to be like this way of life. Go put this way of life on yourself, and I'm not a part of it. Like, go do that thing, and I'm going to be up here. No, he's like, now he's like side by side with me. He's like inviting me to be a part of this thing that he's created. Not that he's not the master, he is the master. But I had this, because it's possessive, right? Take my yoke. And so now we're both in this thing together, side by side, shoulder to shoulder, so to speak. And I thought that was, it just reminded me of that, the son and LeBron and his son, and the story of Duke the horse. I thought those had this really kind of cool connection to what I just recently got done getting a message on, which is, again, Jesus is asking you to put this way of life on, that he's not willing to ask of you anything that he's not doing as well. He has not done. And anyways, I thought that was a fun story to share. And so next up, we have any reflections on that or anything, because I think we have a little bit of time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying. And yeah, as you said, that is one of my favorite scriptures, because, God is saying, and Jesus is saying to us, that when we take his yoke, it makes it easier. So the example that you gave about Duke, and the fact that the load is then carried by Duke when the other horses allow him to lead, is, I think, a perfect example of what Christ is saying to us. Like, it is difficult for us as human beings because we want to carry the load. We want to make the decisions. We want to be the ones. But when we realize how the load shifts, our productivity shifts, our ability shifts, and our peace is greater when we give that yoke and we join with Christ, yoked to him. So
Yeah, I
that's
love that.
awesome.
It's also back to your idea of doing root work, where you naturally have just the fruit thereof. It's kind of counterintuitive. If you if you step back, and he says, it's light and it's easy, right? He does say that at the very end. And so, how do you mean? Well, like this whole analogy about the trainer, right, the lead, and you do allow for him to carry them. And let's be honest, he's carrying. He must be like patting our little heads. How adorable! Look at him. He thinks he's carrying the load. It's like we can see behind the scenes, right? But yeah, to be coachable, and then allow yourself to do that real deep work like you're talking about, and then the fruits are there. But yeah, cool.
Well, where my brain went was, putting this into something very physical and tangible, for like a Sabbath school for little kids, of
Oh, cool.
showing them, having something that two people can carry, and kind of having me like represent Christ, as far as like, if you try to carry this with me,
Sure.
notice I'm doing, like you're talking about, like kind of being that step behind Duke. Look how much easier this is. Now, if you want to carry it your own way, you want to go in a different direction, and you start pulling
That's right.
and you start doing things differently than I'm doing it. If you've ever tried to carry furniture with one other person and you are not coordinating well on this,
Pivot.
pivot. How's it going now? How hard is it versus how easy is it? So my brain goes to those. Ooh, that's a very good tangible thing that you can show kids.
I have some really cool pictures. I'll share it with you. Just really.
Yeah, please do. I love those
Definitely.
tangible things.
Thank you. Thank you for my Sabbath school lesson in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that Bible verse and showing the picture and then doing the object lesson.
Yeah, Blake and Ann. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I thought it was a fun story, and I know I'm like doing political stuff and all this stuff. I was like, all right, let's some encouraging here. Come on, we can find something inspiring here. Come on, you can do it, Blake. So
That's a really nice story too. And I think one of the great things about it, I heard about that, some of the challenges with LeBron and his son, and people, beating up on both of them for, like, oh, you didn't earn it, it's because your dad or what have you. And so just him having to teach some of those things about being in the spotlight and the
That's right. Sniffing
pros
them
and
out.
cons of that come with that, right? It can't all be you're getting celebrated. Sometimes it is people are going to take some jabs. Maybe they're even unfair, but how do you deal with that? And how do you navigate that with integrity and grace and what have you? So thank you for that.
Understood.
And since we're
Yeah.
talking about it in a biblical context, Anika, when you even just said you didn't earn it, was all because of your dad, I'm going, that fits right in.
That's
No, I
exactly
didn't earn
correct.
it.
Yeah,
It was
that's yeah. Actually, good criticism. Sorry.
yeah. So, Anika, what do you have for us?
So my story, I guess not oddly, but it fits right in with physical health. So it's a study that was done by the Harvard Chan School of Public Health. And they found that there's a simple habit that helps people live longer and healthier lives. And so, we've known about exercise and, water, and our hydration, and all of these different things, our nutrition and supplements. But they realized or found out something that we've probably heard before, but when they saw how strong the connection was, it was something that was newsworthy. And what they found is that having quality relationships can add decades to our lives, or I shouldn't say it can add decades, but in a decades long study, they found that having quality relationships can extend our lives.
Yeah, cool.
So when all else is factored in, those who surround themselves with people in quality relationships. So not just shallow, I'm here at these parties, I don't know anybody, and I'm partying every weekend. Not that.
How many friends I have on Facebook?
Yes,
I like it.
exactly. People that I don't actually know and don't really ever, talk with, and they don't really support me, but they're all, their pictures are there. Not that. These are relationships that we have where we're socially connected.
Mm.
And so in the Harvard study of adult development, which is the decades long study they were referring to, they found that people who are more socially connected tended to live longer, experience better mental health, and have lower rates of chronic disease. And I remembered in a previous study that I read, like in my work as a researcher and evaluator, that doctors were calling isolation and social isolation like equivalent to smoking because it has such a negative effect on us. So even for people who are introverts and don't necessarily, want big crowds and all of that, but there should be a circle of support and connection that will help those individuals in their functioning. And so what's striking is that the relationships don't have to be perfect. So it's not, oh, I have a relationship with these people, and anybody who doesn't always make me feel good, I cut them out. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about real, authentic relationships with real human beings, which means they're going to hurt you. They're going to do things that irritate you. They're not always going to be in your corner. Real relationships. But because they're consistent and generally supportive, when we have real relationships with people and authentic relationships, and that includes family, friends, our faith communities, and our neighbors, they act as a buffer against stress and help regulate our emotional and physical health. And so some of the points that I took away from this is that we're not meant to live life alone. Our design, the way God designed us, points towards connection, not isolation. Connection is not optional, it's essential. It's just like sleep and nutrition. Relationships are foundational to health. And community is a form of preventive care. So supportive relationships reduce stress and they protect the body over time. Longevity is about love, not just lifestyle. So our healthy habits do matter, but they flourish best when we have meaningful relationships. And investing in our relationship is investing in our health. So time spent nurturing connections is not time that's wasted. And lastly, showing up for others heals us too. So care flows both ways. Giving and receiving care strengthens the whole body. So, what are your thoughts?
I'm also running a social event at the Winter Family Weekend next week, and now I'm going to have all kinds of bullet points about how, improve your life. It's, live longer. This
Are
is
you
a
doing?
healthy.
That's right.
Is yours for the singles or?
No, it's for everybody.
Okay,
It's
nice.
it's called the Selfie Safari Showdown.
I think I saw that the information on that. I didn't know you were doing that.
So
That's awesome.
Awesome.
So I thought about, Proverbs 27 says that, I like I can't remember the translation, but the rebuke of my friend is better than the kiss of my enemy. There's, the King James Version, faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. Kind of this distinction of what a friend is. And I think a friend will tell you straight, right? They'll be honest with you when you're not doing what you should be doing. They'll be your Jonathan, right? They'll be someone that can, really be there for you whenever the chips are down. And these are people that are not fair weather friends. These are the real people. Yeah, and you have those great relationships you can share the burden with, like we were talking about. These people that are there with you side by side. That's a great feeling. You feel like you're connected. You feel like your life is worth. There's that kind of tangible, like I'm up to something. And I thought about the service project Sundays we've been doing, where we help out the widows and the orphans, or the fatherless. Being side by side with those guys, man, is so much fun. We had just such a good time. And there's like just a lot of cutting up, and those kind of people are true friends. And yeah, I think when you have those kind of individuals in your life, I don't know if it's just natural. You want to live longer. When you don't have anyone around that's like makes life enjoyable, or you have someone that's in your life that wants you to like wish you have like Job's wife or something like this, right? She's it's like curse God and die already. It's like, all right, well maybe that's not the best person to be around. But yeah, it's good to be with someone, to be married well is the other part. We were talking about physical wellness, and she really got me into being more, not only eating better, because I was like really not into vegetables, really not all that much. And she's like, we're gonna have salad with all of our meals, and like we're gonna work out and all this stuff. And I only did it because I felt like it was important to her. So it was important to her. I was gonna make it important to me just because of that. And then see kind of see how it went. And man, she was like super super pumped about it, very excited. And then there was all these wonderful things. And she's like, "Why are you working out?" It's like, "Well, I want to be able to carry across a football field." She's like, "What?" I was like,
That's right. Have those goals.
I was like, I was something. I just like realized one day, like she had something happen where she got lightheaded, and I couldn't like really pick her up all that well. She's like dead weight. Don't tell her that. She's probably like, what? People can say I'm fat. It's like, no, it's more like I was not like physically, you were not fat, and I meant like I'm like probably pretty weak, right? So it's actually telling myself, but no, I was like, I want to be able to like, yeah, at least carry to the car, right? Like that should be a goal, like just practical. And so, yeah, I made it like and so now happy to inform I can carry her like not across the full football field, but like across like at least half of that thing for sure, if not more. So,
Good job.
yeah,
Yeah, you got to have your why, right? Because on the days where it's hard, it's like you remember this is my why.
that's right, exactly that.
And as far as Bible verses, I was thinking more Ecclesiastes 4 about, that two's better than one, and giving all the reasons, kind of tying back into what you're saying, like, because if one falls down and no one else is there, doesn't matter how much your wife weighs if there's no one there to pick her up and carry her.
Stays down.
That's right. It's hilarious.
All right, so mine, I've got kind of two that are going together because it's two different news stories that I've seen in the past week or two about different archaeological studies.
Ooh.
Yeah. Always love those moments when the Bible becomes a little more tangible, or just when people that are in the secular world start going, hey, there's actually evidence of this. And we're over here going, Yeah. Like,
Duh.
yeah. So the first one, it was very interesting. So this was a dig site in Bethsaida. I always try to say a different.
Bethsaida?
So I'm like, so it says a wildfire on the Sea of Galilee has revealed new archaeological evidence about the birthplace of Jesus' disciples, Peter, Andrew, and Philip. The place where Jesus fed the 5,000 and healed the blind man has just yielded new secrets. So what happened is they had found at least this one thing, that's this one basilica, and that's what they were, doing this dig site on. But then there was this really weird wildfire that started, and they saw it coming, and it was coming towards their dig site. And so, the people, moved, and they were just afraid this was going to destroy everything and be the end of this dig site. And instead, it went all the way kind of around where they were and stopped right where you, and I have a couple pictures to put up. You can go ahead and put them up. It stopped, that top left one, you can see all this burn, and some kind of where some blue tarps were.
Oh, that's so cool.
It stopped right where the basilica was, and there was no reason for it to. It was one of those kind of miraculous. And the thing is, that wildfire then burnt away all of this vegetation, all of this growth, and they were able to see that there was this whole town there. And they were able to find, remains of just different walls, public buildings, but then what was really interesting, they were starting to see things that supported biblical stories of this being a thriving town versus just they said that the common thought was that no, this is Galileans, they were kind of hicks from the sticks. Well, then they found these stone jars for like ritual purification. They found an inkwell, which means they were literate and educated, and just all these very interesting things. And even an inscription that referred to Peter, and it just says Peter. So you can
Could be any Peter.
Could be any Peter, but it was just very interesting how the discovery happened, and then what they were finding at that site that is much more in alignment with what we already believe.
It's awesome.
And then the other one was an archaeological dig of the ancient city of Alaka, which is near the Turkey-Syria border. Okay, but what they found was a statue of a king from about 1550 BC. It was King Idrimi, but it was what they found carved, because a lot of times they have the statue of this king and then inscriptions of things about his life or about his rule. And it talked about this king having to flee south to the land of Canaan, where he lived for 7 years among a people called the Habiru, which that word they had already linked to Hebrews. And again, what they found so interesting is that this is one of the earliest archaeological mentions of a land called Canaan. The exact biblical name in Genesis, and that timing of 1550 BC aligns with when Jacob and his clan were living in Canaan generations before going down to Egypt. And it also describes that, like, this king describes sacrifices involving lambs and birds and other rituals that are consistent with the Old Testament and just different sacrifices. So again, they thought, it's just these things that are being found that we think of as, well, that's that, but more and more just supporting the Bible and what it says and time frames. And I just find all of that very interesting. So I will open that up for comments, thoughts on those.
Yeah, biblical illumination. And that's what that field is. It's really great. That brings all that stuff to light. Helps to really I think there's a fine line between that and veneration, right? You want to make sure that because there is faith for faith reasons. There's go too far, right? You all of a sudden have like people carrying around weird
Bones.
objects,
Peter's toe.
Bones. Yeah.
Yeah.
what is going on? But yeah, very cool. And I guess something good can come out of Galilee. That's pretty neat
Yes.
there. That's pretty awesome. But that was a lot of I love that kind of stuff. You can that's your thing. It's Anne's archaeological corner or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome. Yeah, I just think that it's just like throughout my life, I've heard of so many stories and examples and archaeological digs and things like that. Like sometimes it's hard for me to pinpoint like this is how I know the Bible is real. It's like there's just hundreds and thousands of this was dug up and this was found and this ties to this and supports this and so that's like an example. There's like two more
And
to
it's
add.
not just archaeology. There's different science fields. I remember
yeah.
reading one time, and this was a while ago, so I'm going to mess up these details. But they were charting stars and going back in time, kind of using technology to be able to say, okay, it goes back and it goes back, and this is what it looks like. And they were doing something, and at one point, they thought there was like a glitch in the data because it got like a day off or went backwards. And they were like, what happened? And someone that knew the Bible went, wait. Wasn't there a story right about that time of someone pausing the sun and making it go backwards? And it was one of those that it was
Neat.
like, yes, just neat stuff.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
In 7 years, it mentions that he went down there for 7 years, which we know is a very important number in scriptures. Not
Yes.
numerological, right? But it was like it's an interesting number. And would you have just gone there for 7 years? It just seems like a kind of I don't know, interesting number to just have.
Yeah, it was important enough to put on the stone, so on that statue.
It's true.
Awesome.
Well, I think you and I, the three of us, could probably keep talking about all of this till the cows come home.
Or the Clydesdales.
Yes,
Or the
or
Clydesdales.
Clydesdales come home.
Duke.
Yes.
I couldn't help it, sorry.
But you also mentioned getting good rest. So
It's good.
yeah.
There you go.
So I think we have reached our time for today. And for those of you who were watching and it's not evening time and time for good rest, maybe you can meditate on some of the things that we talked about today while going for a walk or, doing something else that's good for you. And I know I speak for all three of us saying that, thank you for joining us and that this is always such a blast to put on and to talk to each of you. And I guess we will see you next time. Thank you so very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.